Today on Rambling About Cars, it's the final episode, but we aren't going quietly into the night. We've got a Mazda CX-70, a GR Lexus LBX to talk about. We've got 3 years of episodes that we're going to try to condense here in a reasonable amount of time. And of course, we have a cheap car challenge, but I don't know how cheap it's going to be. We're going to find out.
Yeah.
So, righteous ramblers, without further ado, let's roll, friends. It's podcast time. I am Christopher Smith, and wherever you are at right now, all around the world, wherever you're listening, if it's days from now, if it's live right now, please rise. Standing ovation to co-host Mr. Chris Bruce, everybody. Woo!
I'll take the nice words. Thank you so much. Just for everyone out there, the game plan for tonight's show is we're going to do about 15 minutes or so worth of news. We still wanted to do a little bit of news during the show since we've always done that. We're going to do a segment where Smith and I are going to talk about our favorite shows that we've done, and I'm going to talk about some of the favorite guests that we've had on and kind of show off some of their stuff. And then we are going to do our not at all cheap car challenge, where we tried to find our dream cars currently for sale. That is the rule, is that they had to, although I cheated because one of mine wasn't currently for sale, but I'm going to show people pictures of it anyway, because it is my actual dream.
It could come up for auction at some point.
Perhaps, yes.
It could come up at auction for some point. But before we go any further, my friend Chris Bruce here.
Yeah.
I've said this a couple times on the podcast before, giving you a standing ovation because, one, you're an amazing person. You're extremely knowledgeable on cars. You are witty. You are creative. But we are on episode 161. That's 161 weeks of rambling about cars, a little over 3 years. You, sir, have not missed 1 week. You are the hardest working podcaster in the podcasting world. No, that deserves a round of applause. I've missed a few days here and there. I had some moves. I had some sicknesses. I had some vacations. You are the chief. So you are rambling about cars.
Before we get into the news, I was thinking about something before the show. And if we want to do this later, tell me, what do you think we did right? What do you think we could have done better?
Yeah. Podcast@motor1.com is still open, folks. You can still email us. We won't be on the air, but podcast@motor1.com will still be there. You can email us, or hey, email us directly, chris.smith@motor1.com, chris.bruce@motor1.com, or is yours Christopher?
Mine's
Christopher.Bruce
at Motor1.
So I refer to myself as Christopher because Chris Smith is stupid. That's a holiday. That's not a name.
Oh, okay, yeah.
But your email address is Christopher Bruce. Okay, I see how it is.
Right. Mine is Chris, although I go by Chris, obviously.
But, as do I.
But no, seriously, if you want to do the question later, we can. But just, let's break this down. 161 episodes. What did we do right? What could we have done better?
That's a throwback to my old agency days. After we would do an event, we would have a TGR, TGW report to fill out. Things gone right, things gone wrong. After every event, it was a TGR, TGW report.
I don't know. Keep that in mind. Let's do the news first.
Yes.
And then as we're talking about the show, think about that, because I think it's worth doing. I think it's
absolutely.
It gives. I have a story, a behind the scenes story. I know I want to tell. So, yeah. So,
okay. Well, we'll get there. But
news first.
Yeah, let's talk about the Mazda CX-70. And I know my brother-in-law is going to be listening here at some point. His family out there, they've been thinking about a new Mazda CX-90. And now we have the Mazda CX-70, which is the air quotes smaller SUV that's actually kind of the same size as the CX-90. Right. It looks like the CX-90. It has the same engine as the CX-90. It's got slightly different front and rear fascias. There's more black trim, and there's one fewer row of seats. It's basically a 5-row or a 5-seat CX-90.
5-seat, not 5-row. It's not a school bus.
Yeah, not a school bus. My mistake there. But yeah, CX-70. This just debuted, and it's been getting some attention. I pretty much just told you all that's different about it. It's really essentially a CX-90 with a bit more black trim,
Right.
with a bit more sporty look because it's supposed to be the more sporty version. It's going to be a little bit lighter, but we don't know exactly how much. Just a little bit lighter. The new
You
front
didn't
and rear
mention
bumpers.
powertrain specs. Do you want me to hit that real quick?
Yeah, go ahead because I mean it's the CX-90.
It is, but maybe people don't know what the CX-90 has, so that we should tell them.
Yes, we
So
should.
base engine is turbocharged 3.3 liter inline six. That's right. Mazda has been doing its inline six for 2 years now. Is that about
Thereabouts.
right?
Sounds about
Thereabouts,
right.
yeah. So base trim that makes 280 horsepower. There's also a 340 horsepower version. There's also a plug-in hybrid with a 2.5 liter 4-cylinder and a 17.8 kilowatt hour battery, and that makes a total of 323 horsepower. So all pretty potent in terms of numbers. Like
Sure.
280s right there with the turbocharged Outback, which I feel is kind of what this is competing against. They're both 5-row. They're both, you know, not sporty, I wouldn't say, but they're not, you know, there's something slightly more interesting about them than your, you know, your Chevy or Ford or, you know,
Mhm.
whatever. In my opinion, that's just, but I own an Outback, so maybe I'm supposed to have that opinion.
Possibly. No, I mean it's
But
it's Mazda. It's got sort of a sporty ambiance about it. Being
right.
the CX-70 with just 2 rows, there's a lot of space in the back. I mean, I suppose you could fold down the third row in the CX-90 and still have some space, but a lot of space in the back of this. Um, Price, you ask? We don't know that. Mazda hasn't revealed any pricing yet. We're
No.
estimating that it's probably going to start somewhere in the high 30 range, like 38,000 thereabouts. It'll be available later on this year. But Brian and Vicky, listening, thinking about CX-90? No, there's a CX-70 to put in the mix if you don't
So I was going
necessarily
to ask,
want 3 rows.
do you think that is a better vehicle for them or the CX-90? Because if they're already thinking CX-90, would you steer them towards a CX-70? Do
Well,
they?
well, they have a minivan now, and I
Okay.
don't know how often they use the back row, the third row. If I remember correctly, when we were visiting, they were like, "Yeah, think this might be the first time anybody's ever sat back here." So
Oh,
maybe
okay.
the 5 row or 5 row, maybe the
You
five
keep
seat two
doing that.
row. I know. I keep thinking of that party bus that I found on the Cheap Car Challenge like a month
That's
and a
right
half
for the
ago.
Thanksgiving
But
episode.
yeah, the family-oriented Thanksgiving, episode. So, I bet the CX-70 might be a little bit better because should be a little bit less expensive. It's gonna have a little bit more of a sporty feel to it. You'll have the same powertrain choices. You'll have gobs of space in the very back, but for those odd occasions where your in-laws come to visit, there might not be extra seating in the back, which means I'll have to come in with a big old 5-row party bus next time I'm in Illinois.
Exactly. Um, but yeah, I think that does it for the CX-70, right? Like that's
Yeah,
basically what it is. It's a CX-90 for someone who doesn't want a 3-row
right.
for whatever
Right.
reason.
Yeah, and it's got more black trim.
Yeah, that's
and that's
sure.
and that's pretty much what you need to know. So let's just move it right along because we've got a lot of other stuff to talk about here.
We do.
And this comes in from a Rambler request. If you are in the chat and you are the person that requested to talk about the Lexus LBX, feel free to raise your hand and announce yourself. I know who it is. So I'll wait and see. We'll wait and see who's really listening here. But this is my request. Lexus LBX Morzio RR. This debuted what 3 weeks ago? When was Tokyo Auto Salon, Bruce?
First week late in the first week of January. I think it was the January 12th, 13th,
Yeah.
14th, if
So
I'm not mistaken.
I mean we're about 3 weeks or so, 3-4 weeks out from that. We passed over this back then, but we're giving it another look because we had the request, and I mean, as I was taking a little bit deeper dive, this could be a really neat thing for Lexus because we have the Lexus LBX, which is basically the Toyota Corolla Cross, if I'm
Right.
remembering correctly.
You're
That's
correct.
that's dressed up a little bit. It's a luxury small crossover that isn't sold in North America. I don't know if I can't recall if there are plans to bring it over at some point.
Not
Not
that I've
available.
heard, I don't
Yeah,
think, but
not
maybe
available
things
here.
change.
But what they did for Tokyo Auto Salon, they took the little turbocharged 300 horse three cylinder out of the GR Yaris and plucked it into this sucker. So now you have just this little hot Lexus running around. And Bruce, we talked about the new GR Yaris
Mhm.
with its updates and its interior, which you thought looked all right, and pretty much the rest of the world thought it just looked kind of ridiculous. Or do I have that
Yep.
backwards?
Nope, no, I thought it looked fine, and everyone disagreed with me.
It just had kind of a cheap feel. Well, what if you could have that powertrain and something with a Lexus interior?
Yeah. Then that theoretically would quiet a lot of people. And you look at this, and the LBX is sold as a crossover because, like we said, it's based on the Corolla Cross.
Right.
But you look at this thing, and this is not some high riding, you're going to take it off road. Like, look at this photo right now. Like, yeah, there's a little bit of a gap between the top of the tire and the fender, but not much. We're
Well, I
not
mean, it
talking
doesn't.
about,
Yeah, it doesn't just have the engine in there. I mean, they stiffened up the suspension. They
right.
made it a little tighter. They made it a little wider, so it just has a really neat stance to it. I mean, we're used to thinking of Lexus performance generally at the very high end. Could something like this grab attention, maybe of younger buyers?
I don't
I
know. Um, because
I
I
mean, it
think,
depends on the price point, but I mean,
yeah,
a GR Yaris, I mean, it's not super expensive, but it's not like a bargain basement hot hatch either. I mean, you're paying a
no.
little premium for that engine.
Right.
I
Well, I mean,
I
we get the GR Corolla here, and so that kind of fulfills that. So I mean, it would take several steps. First off, we should say this is not a production vehicle. This is something they made for
correct.
Tokyo Auto
It's a
Salon with
concept
just like
only.
showing what is possible because the GR Corolla and the Corolla Cross obviously share things that it's not that hard for them to take the regular hybrid engine out of the LBX and slot this engine in there. That's pretty doable. So
Mhm.
first off, we would need to get the LBX from Japan to the US, which might take some doing. Then is there a market for a tiny high performance crossover?
I mean, Mercedes and BMW say yes, right?
That's true.
Audi
That's
says
true.
yes.
Yeah, maybe you got a point here. Maybe you've got a point. I
I
mean,
mean,
theoretically, the Lexus might be a hair cheaper than, you know, like a GLA AMG or something. Yeah, maybe like I would like them to try. Toyota, they've been if you look at Toyota over especially the past 5 to 10 years, they have been trying to have more performance options in their lineup. We're still not
oh,
back
for sure.
to the 80s where you had, AE86 Corollas and Supras and, MR2s and everything. We're not back to that point yet, but,
We're
you
getting
know,
close though. I mean, there's
we're doing
there's the
right,
there's the coach built BMW that's now the Supra, right? I mean, it's
right.
it's a
And
to
there's
it's a
also
Toyota body, so I
right.
mean, technically
And
you could call it a coach built BMW, but then there's the GR86
right. And there's the GR Corolla.
and the GR
And,
Corolla. So
we would be remiss if we didn't talk about the TRD Avalon, which is our boss Jeff Perez's favorite car in the entire world. Um,
oh,
so I'm not saying that's the best option out there, or what it doesn't exist anymore, but still, that was an odd vehicle that maybe might be a collector's item someday, just based on rarity alone. But Toyota has actually been trying, so maybe this would be a next good step in doing that, especially since it seems like development would be, automotive development is never easy, but if you grade it on a curve, this is an existing vehicle and an existing powertrain, and we know the chassis work together. So putting it all together isn't that big of a hurdle. So, yeah, maybe it would work. Maybe you talk me out of it.
Well, I mean, we have a familiar face here in the chat, Mr. John Neff, who used to be our boss, who is now living the camper life all over the country, who says just can't get behind Lexus new, even larger, decidedly anonymous looking grills. I've over the years, I'm sure the Ramblers know, the longtime Ramblers especially, I have never been a fan of the whole Lexus spindle grill thing. But John, I don't see where you're at on this. I don't think the LBX looks really that bad from the front. Bruce,
Yeah,
what, I
let's
mean,
get a
what's
front
your take on
picture
that?
up. I agree. Like the spindle grill this is a perfect picture. It's like a vestigial spindle grill where it's still kind of there, but
Having the license
barely.
plate in the middle helps to separate it, I think, a little bit. Maybe
Yeah,
that's
that's
why
true.
it doesn't hit me quite as hard.
But no,
And
I
being
don't think that
black
this is
helps too.
bad.
But
Yeah,
so
yeah.
sorry, John.
But
I don't think it's really that anonymous, but he does say, I actually think it's good from a product standpoint. It's a crossover, it's electrified, and there's something special about it in the powertrain. This isn't electrified, John.
well, the regular version is.
The regular version is, but we're not talking about the regular version. We're talking
Yep.
about the hot 300 horsepower version.
Correct. Yes. But yeah, I think that's enough LBX talk. Let's get into the meat of the show and what I've been looking forward to.
The meat of the show, which is rambling through the years.
Yeah, like we just said, 161 episodes. We've never missed a week. There was one.
You've never missed a week.
Well, no, the show has never missed a week either.
Yeah, the show has never missed a week. We had the one Christmas where, or I think we did it a couple times. We taped a couple episodes before we were doing them live. We taped a couple episodes and just had them in the can and then scheduled, so we weren't working over Christmas.
Right, but still, the show has never missed a week since we started. So, good stuff there. And yeah, again, which do you want to do first? Do you want to do like some of our favorite stuff first, and then kind of do the breakdown of how we think things went? Or
I mean, let's ramble. For God's sakes,
cool.
that's what we do. That's the name of the show. It's rambling about cars.
All right, I remember you?
Well, before we do that, I want to ask you a question. Because I was thinking about this earlier, and I'm sad to say I cannot remember. We did an unaired pilot episode.
We did 2 unaired pilots.
Oh my God, we did 2?
Yeah.
I don't remember. I only remember 1. I must have been drinking a lot more back then. We did we did 2 unaired pilots just to test it out, to see, get used to the format, to see how things were gonna go. And I cannot remember what we talked about.
I can't either. I mean, no.
I cannot remember what we talked about. Neff is in the comments saying, I made you do pilots. Okay.
Yes, you do.
What did we talk about? What did we talk about, John?
But he's got question marks next, so he doesn't remember either.
He doesn't remember either.
But no, we did 1 as a proof of concept for the tech, because we did a full episode in StreamYard and recorded it all and did everything. And then we did a second episode that was a pilot, that was the actual show with all of the intros and everything. And obviously there was no audience. It was just you and I talking, but it was a full-on show. And then that's when Neff gave us the green light. And then I think it was 2 or 3 weeks after that, we started and actually did Rambling About Cars.
We started episode 1. And if you look back, that was January 8th, 2021.
Right.
Man, that seems like a lifetime ago. And we talked about was that the Jeep Wrangler 392 at that point? I can't remember.
I did not go back and look at episode 1. I pulled up some favorites, but I don't know that I would ever say episode 1 was a favorite, because I think we were pretty raw back then.
We were pretty raw. It was really clear that I was drinking a lot of energy drinks, because I was starting every episode. It's like, it's podcast time, into the top rope, yeah. But we did a segment on that first one that we never did again. and I can't remember why. It was a segment called "What Were They Thinking?" And
Oh,
we started off. It was like a pretty a pretty opinionated section. Maybe that's why we stepped away from it, because we moved away from opinion a little bit. But we were talking about BMW's design direction,
yeah.
and it's hearing all of this feedback from people saying we hate this, we hate this, and we hate this, and BMW is just like, well, this is how we're going to style stuff. So that's it. What were they thinking? And then of course we get the sales stats for 2023, and look, everything with the ginormous grill, the sales are way up. So maybe it's probably good we didn't continue that segment. But
Yeah,
Bruce,
we
you've
were.
got some stuff there.
I do have some stuff. But now I want to show the BMW sales thing that you just mentioned, because here I just found it, because I think we were proven wrong, at least in terms from a business standpoint.
Yeah,
Uh
that was
so
pretty
here's that
shocking when
story.
the sales numbers came out.
Yeah. Here is that story. Just ran January 4th of 2024. Sorry, internet. The big grill thing seems to be working for BMW. And yeah, BMW 7 Series sales were up 80% last
80%.
year. 4 Series sales were up 37%. So clearly, you know, the,
Now, to be completely fair, though, the auto industry was dealing with still some leftover from the pandemic, supply chain issues.
yeah, the
So
chip shortage
sales
and whatnot.
overall were down, but to see things come back like 80% with the 7 Series, I mean, clearly there are some people that don't mind the big grill. I mean,
Or
when you
even
post
enjoy
sales
the
numbers
big
like
grill.
that.
But yeah, one of my favorite guests that we've had on the show, he's been on twice, Myron Vernus, and I especially loved the episode we did with him, talking about his book A Quiet Greatness, with Mark Brinker is the co-author of that. I've got the episode pulled up here. Just fantastic conversation. I've got it muted here, but those guys were super fun. And I've actually got some news about A Quiet Greatness. Myron just posted on January 20th, so about 10 days ago. They are down to 50 remaining copies of that book. So
Oh, that's
if
it.
you
Better act now.
looked at it and you wanted it, he has not said anything about doing like a republish or another print run or anything like that. So they are down to 50 copies as of January 20th. So if you wanted one, yeah, move quick. But just,
Yeah, that's
super
awesome.
nice guy. He has been great to both of us in you know, in the past. Like, he sent you that Mercury
Oh my gosh.
brochure.
Hold on
He
a sec.
sent okay, you got it.
So yeah, you've Ramblers, you've heard me talk in the past about the Taurus show love that I have. And I've talked from time to time. I had a 1987 Mercury Sable LS station wagon that had a show swap in it. The show V6 5-speed manual. It was built by a Ford engineer. It was it was just an amazingly well done engine swap. It felt like this is how the car would have been from the factory if Ford had built one, which they didn't. And I sold the car several years ago, and then sadly, the person that I sold it to, he lived out in California. It got caught in one of the wildfires out there. The owner was fine, car is dead. But Myron, being the amazing person that he is, um, found this in his archives and he sent it to me. And it's just a simple brochure, a Mercury model line brochure from 1986, which is the year the Sable debuted. And I mean, I was still a kid at that point, but I remember when that car debuted, it was the freaking future. I mean, nothing else looked like it. The
Sure.
Sable, especially, the
With the light
entire
bar.
front end lit up. It had the marker lights, the headlights, and then that bar in the middle had lights in it. The whole front end lit up, and it was round. It was the future, and it was just amazing. And it just stuck with me over time. And Myron, if you're listening, I hope you are. Thank you again for sending this over to me. Um, Look at that.
So I would
look
have
at
to.
that piece of automotive art right there. That is a 19. I mean, it's aged pretty well. It's not automotive art.
It's actually kind of getting better with age, because there was a point in like the late 90s where I think it looked kind of dumb, but
Yep.
it's now like coming back around the circle, and
Yep.
it's getting to look much better again, in my opinion.
The
Granted,
first
but
the first generation there from 86 to 91, I think were the better ones, at least with the Sable. The Taurus, I think, the Taurus was good for that first generation, and then the second generation up to 95. The Sable just looked kind of awkward from 92 to 95 to me. And then everything looked awkward after that when Ford went with their whole let's put an oval on everything and thumbs down. But yeah,
Neff
Myron,
is responding. I will recreate the Sable show wagon one day when I'm rich. So someday it could exist again. But here, let me share my gift from Myron, and I would have to run out of the room to get the actual copy, so I'm just going to put up his tweet about it. And so he somehow acquired this poster. I do not know what year it's from. Given the fact that there's an XK120 on it, it's got to be early 50s. And for anyone out there who is not watching on YouTube or some sort of visual means, it's Northeastern Ohio sports car races, 5 races, including a ladies race, airplane and automobile displays. Sunday, October 10th from 9 to 5, rain or shine, refreshments at the Akron Municipal Airport. Admission includes parking, reduced price advance tickets. Richmond's, I assume that was probably whoever sponsoring it, Akron, Cleveland. And he made copies of these and sent me one. And so I have a full size that I'm definitely going to get. I need to get it, matted and put it in a frame. And it's just really cool because for anyone out there who doesn't know, I grew up in the Akron area. And so it's just a neat piece of automotive history from my area. And again, it's just so nice that, you know, he emailed me out of the blue, like, hey, what's your address? And I said, oh, you don't have to send me anything, but I gave him my address. And so I've got a copy of this poster, and I can't wait to hang it up because it's just the art's really good. There's a really good sense of speed. I love the fact that, there's an XK120 on it. So just super cool.
And Bruce, I think you need to clarify this for Group FPC.
Yes, sir.
Says, wait, need clarification. Is the ladies race one of female drivers or literally ladies racing on foot?
I think they're lady drivers.
Probably lady drivers.
I hope they're lady drivers. Although Akron in the early 1950s, there's a chance it's not. There's a chance it's just women racing, but I think they're driving.
Yeah. Well, I was going to ask, was there a year on that?
There was not a year. That's
poster.
why I was guessing from the XK120 on it that I bet it's early to mid 50s. If I had to throw a number, 55-ish. I don't know what specific year. But it's just so cool. Neff, I hope you're still watching because I know obviously you grew up in Cleveland, so I think you would appreciate that as well. The fact that they used to race at the Akron Municipal Airport, which is actually even a place that I've been. So
Ohio,
super cool. Yeah, Ohio.
Well, let me share one really quick.
That's what we're here for.
Speaking of Torres show here, I mean we had Zach Wright on a couple times as a guest. Of course, Zach, owner, driver, builder of the world's fastest Ford Taurus. He ran an 8-second pass with his blue 1995, still shifting 5 gears manually. God bless his soul, blowing the hood off of the car. You've got it pulled up too. I was about to share that. Okay.
That was one of the episodes I pulled up because
Bruce beat me to it. Well, not only was it a good episode, it's officially the most watched Rambling About Cars episode. We're up to 14,757 views on that, which, hey, you know what? In the world of millions of views on YouTube, it may not rank, but it matters to us. That there are a lot of people that have seen that particular episode. That was the first time he was on talking about his experience, not only drag racing, but he was on Getaway Driver, which, if I remember correctly, was on Discovery Channel
Right.
It was like a reality TV series where they had Michelle Rodriguez from Fast and Furious fame. She was the host, and the whole point was they're in this kind of like post-apocalyptic business park kind of place, and you have to escape. And if you could escape, you would win $5,000. And people were showing up to compete in this. I mean, like drift cars and like big muscle cars. These just huge ass built up cars with big motor, big big tires, big horsepower, and he shows up in a Ford Taurus. Now, granted, I mean, it's a show, so it's got a little bit more power up under the hood, but front wheel drive. He shows up in that, and he won, I think, 3 or 4 times in a row.
I think it was
He,
3. Yeah.
he won more than anybody. He was like the only guy that was able to do that. And I mean, he just kind of showed up, and it finally, I think it was the last episode of the run where they finally trapped him, and he almost got away then. So yeah, it was great to have him on. It was great to talk about that experience. And of course we had him on again just a little while ago.
Yep.
What was it? Well, it was towards the end of last year, I think.
Yeah.
Or maybe late last
Because it was
fall.
him and Victoria Scott. They were both on together. So
yeah, and Victoria now works for Motor One officially.
Yes.
That was, well, I mean, what a great turn of events that's been. We were talking about Zach because he had a custom aluminum billet block made for his drag car. And he was getting that built up. He was doing dyno runs. He sort of blew up that block a little bit. It's out getting repaired. That's the last update that I have from him on that, for those curious about the world's fastest quote unquote blue turd Ford Taurus. But no, Zach Wright, we love you, man. Thanks to you. The best rambling, the most viewed, not the best, but the most viewed rambling about cars episode that we had in our 3-year run. Okay, Bruce.
Yeah.
What do you got?
So Smith, yell at me to shut up if I'm sharing too much on this one. But it's one of my favorite episodes that we've done. So I kind of playing in the background for me. I've hit the wrong button. I kind of discovered John Fry on Instagram because I followed him because I just thought his automotive art was exceptional. And so we reached out to him, not knowing that he worked for Honda at the time. And he's like,
such a great, I love this story.
Like, I don't want to talk like about any Honda stuff. I just want to talk about your cool drawings. And so
he's super talented artist, and he does. I mean, he has like a sci-fi / anime slightly vibe going on with his work. You get like Blade Runner vibes, very industrial.
Yeah, a lot of Sid Mead kind of inspiration from his work, and he does everything. Like he does planes, and he does fictional race cars, and just like all sorts of cool stuff. But so we contact him because we really like, the race car stuff that he does. I'm going to try to fast forward here into this video and kind of show off some of his stuff. But we didn't know he also did work for Honda. So there was this entire background conversation where Honda sat in on the episode to make sure we weren't talking. But and you and I were like, no, we don't want to talk about Honda. We want to talk about his other stuff.
Yeah, we want to talk about this other stuff. But yeah, so for that episode, when you go back, do you know which episode number it is by chance?
John Fry and his automotive art. We apparently were not putting episode numbers on the things. The name is John Fry and his automotive art, Motor One podcast. It's from 2 years ago.
But yeah, so that episode, while we're sitting there recording, there were 2 Honda PR people just listening in the background. I mean, they didn't have cameras or anything. Obviously,
I think we did have cameras.
I think they had microphones, but I don't think they had any camera. Or if they, maybe they did.
I think maybe I'm misremembering.
But it was a little awkward. And I mean, obviously, John, if you're listening, I hope it didn't put you on the spot too much. Because we had no intention of talking anything Honda, but to make sure he wasn't spilling any secrets, or we weren't asking anything that might go the wrong way. Yeah, we
Uh,
had a couple of Honda reps in the background listening, and that was an interesting show. But I mean, it was a
right.
great one. His art is just phenomenal.
And I will say,
And
I want to share this as well, just as an update. So I do not know, honestly, whether or not John is still working at Honda, but I do know over just recently he was teaching art in Paris. And he's a fantastic follow if you have threads. It's Frywork,
yep,
Fryewerk, and I'm sharing this thing from him. And he's been posting pictures of just cars he's been seeing on the road in Paris. So here we're looking at like a Ferrari 308 and a Fiat 500 and a Porsche 356 and an Alpine of some kind. And then this is the one I love. Oh, this is not the one I love. Let me get to it.
oh,
Someone
you
in
passed the
Paris.
2CV.
Yeah, but someone in Paris is driving a Chrysler LeBaron. Of all the cars, of the Renaults, the Citroens, the Peugeots, any other European brand that you can think of, who the hell thought I'm buying a LeBaron? But you're right. There,
Now
there's
I'm
Dosha.
I'm gonna get the hate mail. Podcast@moto1.com. That's still open. You can still email me all the hate mail you
Oh
want
yeah,
there. I like the LeBaron.
I
I always liked that era LeBaron with the two door. I mean, they also made the LeBaron that was kind of chunky,
yep,
that you could get with like the wood grain on. But that era, like the late '80s, early '90s, um, they put the 3 liter V6 in it, which was kind of I was never a fan of that engine. But you could get them with a 2.2 turbo and a stick,
yep.
and it's front wheel drive. But I thought they were a good looking car. I mean, that era Dodge weren't necessarily the most reliable, but they could be a fun vehicle to just scoot around in. The 2.2 turbo, I knew a guy who modified one of those with parts from a freaking fishbowl,
What do
and
you
and
mean a
was
fishbowl?
and he had like he had like fans or pumps or something that he took out of his fishbowl, and he did something with the turbo where he was able to up the boost a little bit because he had one of
Huh?
those. And this is they were stupid easy to modify and make faster. So yeah, I you're not going to get LeBaron hate from me. If you're
Okay.
in
Well,
Paris and you want a LeBaron, I salute you.
well, this is another threads. I don't know what we call a threads. It's not doesn't roll off the tongue as nicely as tweet, but this is another one.
Thread.
And it says one of the most fantastic things to happen to me is to be invited to teach art in Paris. It's the ultimate endorsement of my hard work and talent, and I love every second of it. It also fills me with joy that the students are still interested in doing things the hard way, engaging the brain and the physical skill of using analog tools, pressure on the paper, the gesture of the arm, or the wrist to make curved a stroke. Plein air car sketching dans le the fifth arrondissement, and he's got a photo of his students literally just sitting by the road drawing cars. Like that's a cool job, you know.
Yeah.
That's a pretty cool job. So yeah, but yeah, Frywork is a great follow on Threads if you're on Threads.
And that was episode 56, by the way. Episode 56 of Rambling About Cars 2 years ago. We were just we were just over a year old at that point. We were just
Yep.
wee lads.
And I like Group FBC. Amusingly, the French name for the LeBaron is the Baron. It's a quality joke. Smith,
The Ramblers are the best.
can I call out a second one because I want you to talk about it because you're the one that set up the show?
Sure.
Um, the Knight Rider historians, guys.
Yes.
That was all you. You, pursued that. You tracked him down. You got him on the show. That was all you, and that was a great episode.
And AJ, I mean, AJ Palmgren is who we had on the show. He's just one half of Knight Rider historians. And I mean, hey, I'm a Knight Rider fan. I mean, I'm a child of the '80s. You can't really be a child of the '80s and interested in cars without at least being aware of Knight Rider. And the I've never met super fans like these guys. They have a couple screen used Trans Ams, the kit Trans Ams. that's a big deal because people who know the whole Knight Rider saga behind the scenes, Pontiac gave them all kinds of Trans Ams to use for filming during the show, but they were involved in like a train crash where they were loaded up on a train for shipping. The train derailed, so I mean, they weren't necessarily terribly damaged, but because they were in this incident, they were not allowed to be sold. So Pontiac said, "Here are all of these cars. You can use these for filming, but here's the stipulation: when filming is done, the cars have to be destroyed." So tracking down original car, it's a very tough thing to do. So they have some of those. And then they went like a step further. They found one of the original screen used semi trucks, that pulled the trailer that Kit would drive in and out of. And then they found the freaking trailer. They found the actual screen used trailer that's being restored right now. The truck is also being restored right now. They're still posting content on Knight Rider Historians on their YouTube channel pretty much on a weekly basis at this point. I've never met super fans like them. And I mean, I think I joked on the show. It was like, can you guys help me find the TV remote that I lost like 10 years ago? Because they seem to be able to find anything. And AJ was like, we can't help you find that one, but we can help you find the remote that was used on Knight Rider that was lost. We can help you with that one. Yeah, just that was a phenomenal show. And by we, I mean primarily me, Bruce, because I know I'm the fan here. And I apologize to you for really monopolizing that episode.
No.
I could have talked for hours on that one. Hours on that one.
It was a fantastic episode. You're right. You were the one that put that whole thing together, and it turned out fantastically. So, no, you're not getting any fight from me.
No. Thank you. Thank you for bringing that up. That's one of the things that maybe I'd like to point out. Doing rambling about cars with you here for the last 3 years, we've had opportunities, I think, to speak with people that normally you just wouldn't have the chance. And I'm really grateful for that. I'm really thankful for that. I thoroughly enjoyed that Knight Rider episode. I've enjoyed. There isn't a single episode that I haven't enjoyed to a large degree. Even, I mean, some obviously stick in my mind more than others.
Exactly.
Do you have anything pulled up from Jonathan Benson by chance?
I do not have a Jonathan Benson one pulled up. I can.
Jonathan, I mean, he was one of our. I was just going through here.
Guests.
I had a mention to talk about, but then I didn't pull up any of the episodes he was on. Jonathan Benson is the man behind TireReviews.com, and I am a huge tire nerd. And that's, and I don't even know where it comes from, but it's just like the design, the technology that goes into it. It's not just a piece of rubber with some squiggly lines cut in so you don't lose grip. I mean, it's extraordinarily complex. And the more I learned about them with Jonathan's help, the more fascinated I became. It turns out there are a lot of people that share the same interest, because just about every time we write a tire post at Motor One, we get a fair amount of feedback from it. We get a fair amount of traffic coming back from it. And yeah, he was one of our earliest guests, just talking about some of the things that he does, some of the testing procedures. I've never met anybody that does such a thorough, comprehensive test of a tire. And by that, I mean,
I didn't realize how early of a guest he is. He's on episode 7.
Episode 7.
Yeah.
That's phenomenal. I didn't realize it was that early. It was that early.
If you had asked me, I would have said it was in the 20s. He's on episode 7 of this show, man.
Wow. I'm trying to bring up the. Oh, you got it up here right now. I was gonna say I'm trying to bring it up,
yeah.
But it wasn't coming through here for me. Let me just kind of spell us out here.
Sure.
We covered one of his snow tire reviews. Now, the average person, you think, okay, you have wet roads, okay, You have dry roads. That's fair.
Common.
You have snowy roads, right? Okay. He's testing in like dry snow. And then he tests in wetter snow because the dynamic is a little different. And then he's testing on ice, but not like completely smooth ice, but like rough ice where you might have a little bit of traction. And then he's testing on like really slick ice, and then he's testing on ice with a little bit of water on top. I mean, and you get different results. And depending on where you live, I mean, that information is invaluable. It taught
Mhm,
me quite a bit about just okay, what should I look for in a tire? What are my needs specifically going to be? And so many people take it for granted, and you shouldn't, because what's the one thing between you and your car and the ground? It's the tires. That should be the single most important thing you're thinking about. And he also made this point because I remember I asked him once about price, um, and he said, "You know, you can go to a tire store and you can probably buy an inexpensive set of tires that, I mean, they'll have good tread, they'll hold air, they'll grip okay, but there might be one point in your life where you need to stop 5 feet sooner, or you
mhm.
need to have something that will hold grip through a really, really quick left right transition, just a little bit quicker to avoid a car, an animal. It might only happen once in your life, but that moment could save your life. So, is the extra $200 you spend worth saving an injury or a life? And that was, I mean, that was just like the biggest mind blown moment that I've had in recent memory. If you're talking about a difference of $200 or so for a really well thought out, well designed set of tires that will give you an extra foot or two stopping distance, that'll give you a little extra control in emergency situation. It's not about how quick you can do the slalom. You know, hey,
Right.
I could hold on with an extra 0.24 G's. That doesn't matter. What matters is the one emergency maneuver you need to make where you're going to need every ounce of grip, every ounce of control from the tires. And that could be the difference between life and death. And is that worth 200 or $300 extra? Hell yes, it is. And I don't even question it now when I go into the tire store. Don't even
Mhm.
question it. And that's because of Jonathan Benson, who was one of our first guests on the show. He came back later, and he's a friend of mine now. We still have occasional conversations, just out of the blue, just out of the blue conversations. He's doing great stuff over at tirereviews.com too. Definitely want to go check him out.
Mhm. Yeah. And yeah, great guest. I love talking to him about racing his MR2.
Oh,
But yeah.
yeah.
And Neff, thanks for joining us. Gotta go, guys. Thanks for all your effort on Rambling over the years on to new adventures. Thank you so much.
Thank you much, very, very much, sir. And we will be seeing you shortly, I'm sure. Whatever comes next, because Neff is just, I mean, he's Neff, right? He's
Yep.
he's he's
And
he's he's been around, he's seen a thing or two, he knows a thing or two.
And while we continue going, Group of FBC, can I deputize you as a producer for a moment? Because I know you asked me, or you said, for me, Bruce's impassioned plea about the stripes on the Porsche are one of the moments. I know it's the episode where we had to pick
Oh my
Monterey
gosh.
Car Week auction cars. And I was just, while we were talking, I was trying to look it up and I cannot find the episode. I know the segment, it's the Monterey Car Week cars, but I just can't find the episode. So if you can find that in the next few minutes, throw it in chat and I will share that moment happily.
That
um
was that was a moment. I gotta say, that was a moment. They're
I
painted.
The
They're
stripes are painted.
painted.
I know I The thing is, and the wonderful thing is that even my parents told me I was wrong. So,
that's that's rough, man.
so
That's
I
right
was
there with,
clearly
I'm
wrong.
not angry, I'm just disappointed.
Disappointed. um I do want to call out our buddy Brad Hansen. You were talking
Yes,
about how you and Jonathan Benson kind of have a bit of a friendship. I kind of consider Brad and I friends now, and he's someone who just hold on one second. Who He's someone I would have never met if we weren't doing the show.
for sure.
Um, and just a super nice guy, super fun car collection. I do think it's hilarious that right before the last time we were on, or the last time he was on the show, we were talking, and he's like, "Yeah, I need to get a new car because me and my wife's cars are both 2-seaters. So whenever someone comes in, we got to take 2 cars." And he just bought another Corvette. So
yeah. It's like, I need something with
car.
more seats, so we'll get another Corvette.
Yeah, so he replaced a C4 with I think it's a C6. But yeah, super, just a great guest, super fun guy, super knowledgeable, especially about that Radwood 80s to 90s era of vehicles. Also the only member of the Three Timers Club, if of people not from Motor One. Like, we've had Jeff Perez and we've had Brett Evans and we've had Motor One people on more than 3 times, but he is the sole 3-time guest. But yeah, just, super fun. Always great when he's on the show. Always love having him on the show. Always love talking cars with him. Great photography. He's another really good Instagram follow. Because he's constantly doing car stuff. He lives in Southern California, Los Angeles area. So he and his wife are just doing car stuff constantly. Let me actually vamp for me for just a hot second, and I will tell the people what his Instagram is. I think it's just Brad Hansen, but before I tell people that, I want to be sure.
Well, I will go ahead and vamp for you by mentioning the podcast number 134, where we talked about the 2024 Ford Mustang, the Toyota Land Cruiser, and the Mitsubishi Triton, Honda S2000 rumor. Brett Evans was our guest, and guess what we were talking about there? We were talking about, it was our $1 million cheap car challenge. Do you remember that, Bruce?
Oh, yes. Yeah.
It was our $1 million cheap car challenge, and you picked a Porsche 911 with painted stripes.
Yeah, I did.
And there it is.
I know I did.
Look at that.
Oh, you're sharing it right
painted.
now?
They're painted on, Bruce.
I still think that car's hot as hell.
It's a good looking car. It's a good looking car. It has a real 90s feel to it. But $1 million for painted stripes, or $1 million that went into the painted stripes was a part of that. It's just like,
right. It wasn't just the painted, but it was part of it. And now that I'm looking at that car, I don't know that I was wrong. I think that's a strong pick. I know people are going to tell me I'm wrong. I know people that are thinking I'm doubling down on a bad decision. Still like that car a lot.
It's a nice enough car. $1 million cheap car challenge.
Ted Adam Green has got you, though. Your 959s are generic comment.
Oh my God, they so are. That I will fight that to the grave, and then I will claw out of my coffin and continue to argue that point.
Okay.
The wheels look like something from Pep Boys. The wheels look just completely generic. It's got that big flat wing. It's like, that'd be a great place to just sit and have some lunch on, It feels like a little picnic table. Just Porsche. You know what Porsche needed to do?
Paint on some stripes?
Hell yes, Bruce. Thank you. If they put some painted stripes on there, I would be all over the 959.
All right.
And give it some different wheels too, right?
Okay. Well, here, real quick, I'm going to call out our buddy Brad Hansen. His Instagram is Brad Hansen Media on Instagram. And again, great follow. And then here is his new Corvette that he bought. It's a 2007 C6 Corvette. He's named it Elvis, which is hilarious because if you remember, he was on the show and we were talking about Elvis's cars a while back. One owner, 12,700 miles. Yeah, it's a very nice car. It's just hilarious that the guy who said, I need a 4-seat car, man. People come into town and we have to take 2 cars.
Well, guess what? You're taking 2 vets now.
Well, no, because his wife's got the Thunderbird. So
no. Just take the 2 vets. Leave the Thunderbird alone.
Okay. Yeah.
Take the 2 vets.
Sharing this. Yes, there is his wife's Thunderbird. Took the Thunderbird through the famous Split Rock and Palm Canyon.
Out of respect, I'll say it's a nice color.
It's a nice, yeah. It's, again, not my favorite car, but very nice and great photography. So
yeah,
can't fight you there.
Bruce, we talked about we talked about a lot of guests, but I mean, were there any subjects, any topics that you wanted to revisit here? I mean, clearly you are thinking of something. While you're thinking of that, let me mention this. One thing that I always wanted to revisit that we never had a chance to do, was vehicle classifications and definitions.
Yeah, we did that a few times early on.
Yep. Where, okay, what is this proper definition of a sedan or a coupe or an SUV? Wagon versus shooting brake. There is so much of that, I think, to explore and just to have some really good debate on, because obviously things shift over time.
Right.
We're talking about, in some cases, definitions that were established decades ago versus things that just kind of maybe blend in a little bit today. I think shooting brake and wagon kind of falls into that to some degree.
Well,
and SUV falls into that to some degree.
Well, that's changed since I've been writing about cars, where when I first started, there was this hard definition of crossovers are a unibody chassis and front wheel drive, and that's what a crossover is.
And SUVs were body on frame. If you had an SUV,
body on frame,
it had to have a proper frame underneath. And now anything that sort of has a little bit of height, falls into an SUV category.
Yeah, we've kind of just abandoned that crossover term because they became so ubiquitous that the line between a crossover and SUV just got blurred.
Yeah.
And so it stopped making sense to kind of differentiate them. I will say, and this was a while back, my mother-in-law went down the rabbit hole of trying to find the very, very first use of muscle car. And so we were trying to figure that out, and we think we got really close.
Didn't we have it down to like the early 60s or something?
Yeah, it's like, it seems like it's a specific magazine in 1963 was the very, very first. But it was interesting in like doing that research with her that it actually seems like supercar slightly predates muscle car. Like the term supercar existed, maybe in the early, like maybe 60, 61, and then muscle car came around just like a year later. So, but yeah, people are calling out my mom because she is in the comments. So hi, Rhonda Bruce. Behave, Bruce. Your mom's in the chat. Yeah, but here's the secret. She's been in the chat most episodes. She just doesn't always comment. And then, hey, mom. So, yeah, I think we did really well at this show. I think. Yeah. The behind the scenes story I wanted to tell.
Oh, yes. I don't know about this one.
Yeah, I think you do. I think we discussed it back in the day, but it's something that sticks in my mind. Is early on, we were very ambitious, and we were like, okay, what guests would you like to get on the show? And the one I wanted to get on the show, because he's the head of the Department of Transportation, is Pete Buttigieg. And I got as close as any podcast has ever got to getting him on our show. I contacted my state representative while I was living in BG. He gave me his press secretary's contact information. I exchanged several emails with the press secretary. Unfortunately, just when it seemed like we might get there, the press secretary left the Department of Transportation and went to the White House. And after that, I could not get a single person in Buttigieg's office to email me back.
Oh, yeah, I remember that. And see,
it was
here's the Bruce Smith dichotomy. You're trying to get people of that stature. I was trying to get Cybertronic Spree on the show.
You did. You tried. Tell people what Cybertronic Spree is.
For those who don't know Cybertronic Spree, if you grew up in the 80s and you know anything about this toy phenomenon called Transformers, Cybertronic Spree is a band. They dress up. They have Transformer costumes. There's Hot Rod. There's RC. Shockwave, Soundwave is in there. Rumble. They they have these costumes. Unicron is their guitar player, like just a phenomenal guitar player. They do some great covers, and they've gotten pretty successful. I mean, they put on their costumes and they're doing like all kinds of cool 80s cover songs. But it was like, okay, I'm a fan. We're a car podcast. What if we have some car transformers on the podcast? And I thought that would have been super fun, but the stars just never aligned on that.
The other
I was trying to get Sydney Sweeney on back when
that's the story. Okay, you tell the story then.
We saw her there was Sid's Garage channel where she was
shining moment.
There was a brief moment.
Have gotten Sydney Sweeney.
We thought we were going to get her on the show. I think we were the first to cover her resto work on her Bronco, and
then Seth who was the head of Motor One at the time, he met her at a party and was apparently talking up the show to her,
and was trying to get her on the show. But the best we could do was do like an email interview with her on her project, which we did an article on.
We did, yes.
But I thought that would have been such a great show because there's
two
a
old
lot
guys talking to Sydney Sweeney. It should have been with the title of the episode.
Here's what I wanted to do. I'm just going to come out and say there's a lot of toxic masculinity in the automotive world.
Yes,
and here is this young, successful, talented Hollywood actor, female, doing work on her vehicles. And when you're watching the episodes, it's not like she's sitting there and somebody hands her a little wrench, and she's down there with freaking wire brush cleaning rust off the car. She's taking things apart. She's involved on this, and I wanted to share that. And I wanted to highlight that. So, unfortunately, we couldn't get that star to line up. But that's those are the people that I was going for. And Bruce is like calling the White House. I'm calling Hot Rod. Hey, can you come hang out with us for a little while?
My congressman and I explained the thing, and we were close, dude. I swear to God, we were close. But it didn't happen.
Actually, while we're talking about it, when I was down in Charlotte, North Carolina, just a couple of weeks ago for the Ford event,
you told me,
I was there talking with Jim Farley, Ford CEO. If you follow him on socials, he's a modeler, guys. He builds scale models. He does really good. We were talking, and he said, I'm going to enter my first scale model show, he said, here in the spring.
Oh, really? You didn't tell me that part.
So I didn't corner him. It was just before he was about to give us a speech. And I was like, so I would really love to have you on the podcast. And I whipped out my phone and I started showing him some pictures of this 1/25th scale semi-truck, this custom-built semi-truck that's right behind me right now, loaded, conveniently loaded with every generation Ford Mustangs. And, I'm trying to make a little bit of a connection. I would love to have you on the podcast just to talk about the scale models and the things like that. That'd be a lot of fun. He's like, that'd be really exciting. And then I said, we'll probably have to ask you if you're going to make a new Ford GT at some point, but let's really talk about model cars. But obviously we're not going to have that opportunity here at this time, but hey, who knows for the future, right? Who knows?
Exactly. I think it's time to do the Dream Car Challenge.
Are you ready for the Dream Car Challenge, Ramblers? Now's your chance. If you have any dream cars that you want to share in the comments, drop it in right now. I'll say it one more time here. Whether you're Motor One on YouTube, Motor One Com Facebook, Motor One Com Twitter, drop it in. It comes into our little network here. We will see it, and we would love to share it if you have any of your dream cars. Our stipulation for this challenge.
Us on Deezer. You should know you can find us on Deezer.
You can't share on Deezer though. You can listen.
That's true.
You can listen on Deezer and then email us podcast@motor1.com.
That's true. That's very true.
But the Dream Car Challenge, we said, you know what? It'll be the last one here for rambling on Motor One. Let's just go big. The only stipulation, gotta be on sale.
Well, or not. I got it.
I'm the one that breaks the rules, man.
Yeah, well, we got to change.
We got to change it up.
We
Well,
got to
okay, tell
change
you what.
roles.
Why don't you lead us off, my friend?
Yeah, for anyone who has listened to the last 161-ish episodes, you will know that there's a certain car that I have an irrational love for. And if I can just own my dream car and just like have it, I'm gonna have a 914 in
914.
burnt orange, and this is a 914-6, which means it's got the 911 engine in it. It's got Fuchs wheels.
You
That's
couldn't find
perfect.
one of those for sale? I find
Not
them for sale
currently.
all the time for like $5,000.
Sure. No, you don't. No. This one was on Bring a Trailer in, what would that be? September of 2023.
Oh,
Sold
it
for
was for sale.
$90,000. It way out. Yeah, no, it's Bring a Trailer. It was for sale
Wait,
at one point.
when did these get that expensive?
Dude, 914-6s. The regular 914s are a fraction of the price, but if you want the 6, this is the going rate.
Okay, that's fair.
Seriously. Just perfect color, perfect look. Yeah. I never want to work on it because for anyone who knows about these cars, they call this the hell hole because this is your access to the engine. That's it. So you get yourself a lift and you can work on them, but otherwise not so good. But
yeah, but I mean,
yeah,
it's the dream car. It's the dream
exactly.
car.
It's the dream car challenge. The stainless steel, the chrome front end that's polished and you can like see yourself in it. You know, they're not all like that. Some, just different looks. This is, if I could put one car in my garage, yeah, it's this.
I mean, I can't fault you. It's your dream car, man. I can't.
Yeah, no, this is my one.
Can we never see it with the headlights up again? Because that looks like it's like ready to audition for Cars 4. It definitely looks better with the lights down.
Sure,
definitely looks better with the lights down.
So this is my cheater answer.
The color is spot on, though. The color is spot on.
Burnt orange, yeah, with Fuchs wheels, and yeah, just perfect. So that is my cheater answer. I did find cars that are actually for sale, but Smith, show me your first one.
Okay, well, we're going to change things up here just a little bit, I suppose. You're going for the Porsche, and
yes,
I mean, folks who have listened to the show, you probably know. I've talked about it a few times. You probably know what one of my dream cars is, at least. Actually, wagon. for the $1 million cheap car challenge, I had one of these. 1935 Auburn 851 Speedster, a boat tail Speedster.
That's a good pick.
Now, this is for sale in St. Louis, Missouri, $935,000, which seems pretty cheap to me. Of course, this is the supercharged model. There are all kinds of replica and recreations out there that look fantastic. And to be honest, one of those might be a little bit better if you wanted something to drive more often. Certainly more affordable. I found all kinds of really gorgeous replicas that had 5.3 LS V8s with more modern suspension. Maybe that would be better from an overall just enjoying to drive, but I want an original. And that's what this is. This is a 35 Auburn 851 Speedster. It's got the straight 8 engine in there. Look at that engine, that big old long gorgeous engine with the big horns sitting up there atop of it. Yeah. This just pushes all the buttons. It's got the chrome exhaust pipes.
Gorgeous.
Coming out of the side there.
And you can see the weird supercharger that's on top because today we always kind of think of them. Yeah.
Yeah. Look at that weird supercharger design.
Yeah. Yeah.
This was the supercar back in the day. That interior,
Absolutely.
that red interior on the black exterior is just
And the
stunning.
black gauge dashboard with those
Yes.
that
I mean,
pinstripes. I don't know how you describe that, but
the car is just gorgeous in every way. Let me jump over here. There's a plaque on the passenger side of the dash. Let me
yeah.
read it here. This certifies that this Auburn automobile has been driven 100.4 miles per hour before shipment with a
Oh,
signature
that's cool.
that I can't read. This is a 1935. I mean, 100 miles an hour today. Okay. This is a 1935, man.
Right.
That's just gorgeous in every way. To be honest, I wouldn't want black. I would want a different color, but this works just fine for me, and it's for
Sure.
sale. It's the only one that I was able to find right now for sale. And I mean, yeah, it pushes all the buttons. The just the big hood ornament there. There is nothing. Okay, maybe I would change up the wheels a little bit. Give it some flashier wheels.
No.
Yes, give it some flashier. Give it some wire wheels.
No.
The cars with the wire
Bad
wheels,
take, I think.
that put some proper wire wheels on that. Black with the red. I
Yeah,
can't really go wrong there, man. I can't really go wrong.
absolutely you can't. That's a hell of a good pick.
And in
Um,
fact, the sim racing cockpit that is functional that I have right now, it's still a work in progress because I want to make it a replica boat tail. Because
oh really? I don't think you told me that.
have you ever seen somebody's sim racing cockpit that looks like a 1930s Auburn boat tail? No, everybody's making
Absolutely
them
not.
like race cars, or maybe they go to the junkyard and they get the Subaru WRX dash and they set the dash. I mean, some really nice projects. I've seen people do them up like Formula One cars. Never seen anybody do an Auburn boat tail. So I've got the core set up and I'm using it. Now I just got to build the boat tail. I got to build a little bit more of a front end to it. I've got some chrome pipes coming out the side that I use for routing cables inside for all of the equipment inside. So working on
I
it.
think that's a strong pick. That's a strong pick. So here's my second one.
Here's your
This
second
is
one.
a car that is actually for sale. This is a 19, I believe it's 73. Yes, 1973
Oh,
Citroen SM. I think these cars are so cool. I was
they
lucky
are.
enough to have the experience of being able to sit in a Citroen DS where it was running and you get to feel the hydro oleomatic, whatever it is, suspension system. And it's like, it's the most comfortable thing that you can imagine sitting in terms of a car because it soaks everything up. And plus the fact that Citroen owned Maserati at this time. So it has a Maserati V6 engine in just it looks like a spaceship on wheels. I'm going to switch images
The
here or
SM is
switch.
just one of those. It doesn't fit into any category. It was ridiculously ahead of its time. Um,
Right.
I mean, I don't know that I would call it a good looking car, but it's not
I would.
ugly. It's very distinctive.
Yes, and the interior is especially so here actually these are fantastic photos. So here you can see what it looks like with the suspension all the way up in its highest position. And you can see there's a pretty somewhat decent ride height here. And then here you can see how it looks all the way down and how hunkered down. And it just looks like a spaceship sitting on the road. Like look at how just like low and beautiful it is. Let me get to the interior photos here. Uh we're getting there. Um but
I
just
love Group FBC's comment here. The hydro, oh my gosh, is broken against suspension. These did have a really bonker suspension setup.
yeah, because it's hydraulic but with oil. It is a very complicated setup, and I know keeping them on the road is pretty expensive. Let me make sure I'm sharing the right image here. I
It's
am.
a
I
properly Citroen
I love this
engineering
gear
setup.
shift because it's a gear shift, but there's no like gator around it, or it's not slotted or anything like that. There's just this piece of metal that moves with everything, so you never quite see everything. It's just a fantastic design, and I think it's one of the prettiest cars ever. Um, so yeah, if again, money no object, and I, was Jay Leno and I had infinite money to keep a car on the road, I would have these absolutely for sure, and I would love it.
You got me on this. I was not expecting this. I'll be honest. I expected the Porsche.
Oh yeah,
I expected the
the
Porsche. Was
Maserati
not
thing on the
yeah.
engine.
Was not expecting this. I'm impressed.
Yeah,
Very good pick.
yeah. Do you have a second pick?
I do. But before I jump into that second pick, I want to jump over
Yes,
here to
sir.
the comments because we've been getting a few comments here on Dream Cars. Ted Adam Green, ND2 Miata RF, less than 23,000 and 35,000 miles. Next year, I am planning on pull that trigger. You only live once.
Yep.
We need to try to enjoy the time that we have, not stress so much, enjoy a little bit more. Solid pick there. Is the answer always Miata? Most of the time, unless you're trying to carry 10 people to soccer practice. And what else do we have over here? Group FBC. Ooh, maybe an E39 M5. Just
That's
the
a good
perfect
choice.
balance of everything. An E39 M5 is a very good choice.
Yeah.
I'm very fond of that era of BMW. It's a fun car to drive for sure. And your second choice, Lamborghini Espada.
That's a good one. I did actually look at one of those as I was.
I thought about some Lamborghinis because I've always loved the Miura, um, and I also love the Countach, but none. I just didn't feel like if I only had to pick two, I came to the conclusion I wouldn't pick either one of those. The first was the Auburn Boat Tail. That was in my
Sure.
mind right away. It's like that's I can't. There's no way I cannot have that in my garage. The second one was a little more thinking, and I thought, well, the Auburn. I'm really nervous about meeting my hero in that
Mhm.
sense because I love the way it looks. Is it going to be enjoyable to drive? A 1935 car,
On
90
the
years
right
old,
day, it's gonna be
maybe.
perfect. On the wrong day, it's gonna be hell.
But
Like,
what's something that I'm going to enjoy driving that is certainly a dream car, for me at least, that might be affordable? Group FBC might be onto something here.
what we
Not
got?
an E39 though, an
Oh, yeah.
E24, an E24 BMW M6. This is a 1988 model. It's for sale, I believe, in Cincinnati, Ohio, Bruce. This one has done 91,990 miles. The M6 is super rare in the United States. I
Click on
mean,
the I can't tell if that's blue, dark blue or green.
it's blue. It's a gorgeous blue.
It's blue. Okay, yeah.
Look at I mean, just look at this. Let me see if I can zoom that in a little bit.
I'm sure you can. Yeah, that's
It's just a gorgeous shade of blue. I can't remember what it's called. But blue, I mean, it looks 91,000 miles, but it looks fantastic all around. Gray interior, of course, the manual transmission.
yeah.
There, and it's beautifully, wonderfully stock. It has the original, the original style wheels on it.
Mhm.
It hasn't been tarted up at all. I did find a couple that just they were lower in miles, but I didn't like the color. I didn't like some of the changes that have been made. This thing just pushes every single button I have. I know I would get into it and enjoy driving it. I would then get
That's the
out of it and enjoy looking at it.
yeah.
The E24 6 Series is right up there as one of, in my opinion, one of the prettiest cars of all time. That's also dynamic and fun to drive. That inline six sounds phenomenal. It
It
has good
does.
performance for its era. It's a manual transmission that gives me the engagement that I want. And the shark nose, come on. Is there let me fast forward to another image here of the shark. Come on,
I
where
think you
is
have
it?
to go up rather than down, but
Oh,
Oh, there you
look
go.
at this.
Perfect.
Look at that. Look
Yeah.
at that. You don't need a big grill there. You just
No.
need nice, subtle lines, clean, symmetrical.
No, that's pretty much
And
I
and
mean,
and it's attainable. I mean, it's this one is 70 grand,
right.
but in an age where the average new car is almost 50 grand. I mean, this is a dream car that could be attainable. I have to be
Yes.
making a little more money than I make now, but
Well,
it could be
yeah,
attainable.
but yeah. And just fantastic pick. I mean, a car that I love as well. Just one of the best exterior designs. That shark nose look that
Mm.
it just you're never
Royal
gonna
blue over silver gray leather,
okay.
a West Coast E24 M6, and again, the M6 in the United States, the E24 M6,
Mhm,
super rare. I don't know exactly what the numbers are. Just about every E24 I see is a 635.
mhm, yep.
So to find this and that color, I wouldn't change a thing about that car. That would be my choice color. That would be my choice interior,
Yeah, you
choice
see a lot of
everything,
these
man.
in black and silver seem to be the 2 colors that you always see those in. So it's finding one that, the buyer original buyer got a little creative and went with something like that. That's a good choice.
And I mean, it has 91,000 miles. I don't care. I found one that I think had 9 or 10,000 miles,
Mhm.
but and I mean, it had aftermarket exhaust and it had Alpina wheels on it and it was white. Um,
Yeah.
I mean, I could change the Alpina wheels back to just the stock wheels. I could put the stock exhaust back on, and white's not a bad shade, but I
They look pretty good in
blue
white, but
blue
still, I
blue
would
is blue is my number one,
yeah, I agree.
and that particular shade just does everything, man. Just does
Okay.
everything.
Well, we're at just about an hour and a half, so I think we gotta wrap this one up.
I think we're just about set here. The final rambling about cars on Motor One, but
Yep. No,
we need to make this clear. It's not the end of Bruce and Smith.
no, it's not. We are gonna take a few weeks off. That'll definitely happen, but this is not the end of us podcasting.
Right.
Um, it's just not.
We have stuff working on in the background.
Yeah.
Among other things, I have scale model rescue that I will plug now that I
Yeah,
am
go do your
in in
plugs there.
in the final stages of just getting everything sussed out for my recording, for my lighting, because I want this to look pretty good.
Well, tell people
Um,
what that's gonna be
for
just in
for
case they don't
right
know.
for those who don't know, I have a few scale plastic models here in my home office workshop. About
50-ish, right?
more like 250 ish.
Okay. I
300.
would
That's assembled and unassembled.
okay.
A lot of these were built by my father over the years, by my father-in-law over the years, me primarily when I was younger, though I've been building a little bit more lately. Some of these are built over 50 years old. Some are in boxes still waiting to be built, 50, 60-year-old kits. And I have a lot of junk kits. And instead of just using those for parts, I'm going to try to rebuild every single damn one of them. And I need to up my skill a little bit to do that. But I've created Scale Model Rescue, and I'm going to record my efforts.
Mhm.
So hopefully, when you see things like this, that looks pretty good, but isn't perfect. This is one of the trucks that my father built. That's a scratch built semi truck, by the way, similar to the one that he drove way back in the 80s. And then I look at some of these models, like that yellow '67 Mustang on the bottom. I can see is missing the rear bumper. Just there'll be little projects like that, and then there'll be big projects where I'm taking everything apart, stripping the paint all off, and doing all kinds of stuff. So that will be hopefully a very, very long running channel. And I'm going to try to start it in March. And I want to incorporate some podcasting into that just to talk
Right.
about models and fun. And guess what, everybody? Bruce is a modeler too. So
I am.
hopefully, Bruce, you'll want to join me on an occasional scale model rescue podcast.
Yeah, I think maybe there's an opportunity to do a short show there that you know, once a month when all of the new models get announced in Japan, maybe we do a show where we talk about the new cool models that are coming out. You know, we'll see what happens, but I think there's an opportunity to do that, and it's something that no one else is doing. So, you know,
Yeah. I've
maybe
looked
that's
I've looked all over YouTube, and I know there is a lot to look at YouTube. I see quite a few. I mean, there are some great modeling channels.
oh yeah, they're very good.
I see quite a few channels where people are quote unquote restoring things, but it's mostly die-cast cars that, and
Yep.
I mean no disrespect to any of these content creators. Looks like die-cast cars that maybe they buried under the backyard for a month so they look dirty and rusty. And then they just take them all apart. They take the screws out, they sand them down, repaint, and put it back together, and it looks great. This is legit 50-year-old plastic models, some of which were put together by a 6-year-old in the 80s who
Mhm.
thought neon blue and neon pink was awesome on everything.
And all the
And
glue you can put on stuff.
with all the glue you can put on, and everything has a hole in the hood because you got to have something sticking up through the hood. So yeah, um, I'm going to try to fix those as well.
Okay. Yeah, sounds good. Again, this is not goodbye. This is see you later.
Mhm.
Um, and we will be seeing you later. And so for the last time, rambling up about cars on Motor One, but not the last time ever. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, or good night. We appreciate that you decided to spend time with us when there's a million and one other things that you could be doing. And the fact that you decided to take your time and spend it with us is very special, and I appreciate that. So bye bye, and I will talk to you all again soon.
We'll see you soon, everybody. Bye bye.